All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Bluegrass Independent Opinion. Everything on here is completely and totally my opinion and my own comments and my own beliefs and things of that nature. Not being influenced as best as possible from anything or anyone outside of my own ideas and my own logic. It doesn't mean that I'm right all the time, but I do want to make it clear at the outset that if anything is offensive or anything comes across as I'm leaning one way or the other, or that I'm in one camp or the other, that is not entirely true. I do lean one side on some things as opposed to the other, but that's just the way of things. These are all my comments. They are my own, and it does not reflect anyone that I may mention during a broadcast or anything else. Again, I have no sponsors. It's just me, and I am going to offer up a discussion today that may rub the fur backwards on one or both of the camps that will be talked about here. And you know what? I'm not entirely sure that I apologize for that, because if you listen to me and understand what I'm trying to say and explain what my reasoning behind the things that I say, you may find that um, my ideas are the reason why I feel the way that I do and I'm thinking the way that I am about this. Today's episode, I want to discuss the situation on the border, and I follow a celebrity, one of the celebrities. Um, his name is Stephen Amell from the CW's Arrow. And again, Mr. Amell, probably he does not know who I am. And he isn't a sponsor. He's not paying me advertisement or anything. The CW he isn't either, or DC, Warner Brothers, anybody like that. They are completely free and exempt from any comments that are being made here today on this episode. Now, what I want to discuss is uh, he had a post yesterday and then one again today that seems to have erupted the comment section on Facebook. And I want to discuss the things that I saw, some of the comments, and what I think is going on behind the scenes with all that. Now, first off, from the outset, I have several things that um, annoy me, and there's some certain things I cannot accept, and one of them is double standards. Now, I'm going to get that out of the way so you understand where I'm coming from. The whole wear your mask, get vaccinated argument, whether you are for or against it, is irrelevant with what I'm fixing to say. My problem is that they're screaming for. I have been vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. But the reasons I did it are my own. If you were to ask me personally why I got vaccinated, more than happy to tell you why. But I'm not going to do it because I feel like somebody is forcing me to do it, and I think that's what a lot of the um, message is not getting across very clearly of those against vaccination. It's not that they're against vaccinations or that, who cares about health or anything like that. I don't believe that's it. I think that what it is, they don't want somebody telling them what to do. And that I totally get. I mean, the up until present day, the United States has a history, a track record of not liking being told what to do. For heaven's sakes, that's the reason we separated from England when we were colonies, is because we didn't like the king telling us that we were going to pay taxes without representation, and they told the king what to do with his idea, and we separated and became our own country. Now, um, the argument, get vaccinated, that's great. You want to do that is hooray for you. If you don't, I also okay. I see both sides of the argument. I really do. But I have a problem with these migrants, as they call them. One side's call them illegal immigrants. Be that as it may, whoever these people are, they are being brought in, and as of this morning, and my limited research that I was able to conduct this morning, these people are not vaccinated. They are not being vetted. And so my point is that these folks are coming into this country. You're screaming at Americans to get vaccinated, and you're letting folks come into this country legally or illegally, and they don't have to. I have a problem with that. In fact, they're being detained or being held. Why not vaccinate them right then? Now, if they have a health condition that requires them not get vaccinated, that's one thing. But the same thing applies to Americans. Um, if you have, a problem or some kind of medical issue, and vaccination would cause you harm, then by all means don't vaccinate them. But I have a problem with the current administration. I think this might be the first criticism I have given of the Biden administration for, they're being pretty strong about people need to get vaccinated, and I understand where they're coming from again, but they're letting folks come into this country, whether it's illegal or not, is left to be seen. One side is screaming that they're illegals. I'm not sure how accurate that is. But what I do know, as of this morning, again, these folks that are not Americans that are coming in here, whether it's legal or illegal, are not being vaccinated. They are not being required to be vaccinated. They are not being quarantined. And I have a big problem with that. I don't like it. The governor, again, I live in Commonwealth, Kentucky. He was wanting to flex his muscles yet again and require masks and threatening shutdowns and all that if people didn't do what he said. I didn't like the way he was handling things, the angle of which of his logic I can understand. And I would even go as far as to say that I would think that he was wanting to do it in the best interest of the citizens of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. However, Mr. Governor, I don't like your approach. Just like your predecessor, I didn't like his approach with a lot of the things that he did. You're wanting to strong arm, and how are you any different to Mr. Bevan? He got fired, if you will. He was not reelected because he was being strong armed with people and made some comments against their teachers here in the Commonwealth and veterans and first responders and teachers and all that. We love those people here. And if you unfairly attack those people, we're going to get our dander up. So, Mr. Governor, I don't like how you have handled things. Your attitude seems to be that of your predecessor, and we all know how that went down. I would suggest that instead of brushing off the General Assembly, whether you agree with them or not, they are there. You have to work with them. Just like former Governor Bevan needed to try to work with people from the other side, and he didn't want to. He wanted to push his way through. I didn't like that, and I don't like it out of you. That's just the way it is. So, back to the vaccination thing. I got off topic a little bit there for a second. Wanting to strong arm people into doing this, and the reason behind what these people are saying as to why they're being aggressive like this, I understand. But when you are making natural born citizens of this country, you're bullying, you're shaming, you're being very aggressive to try to make them do what you think they should, and letting this other crowd that are not Americans, they are coming from areas of the world that in their culture or whatever they are susceptible things that we are not susceptible here, and you're letting them come in. And biggest thing is the COVID right now and the Delta variant, and you're not doing anything as of this morning on Google. You're not requiring anything to be done with these people. You're not quarantining them. You're not vaccinating them. What gives, man? That is not cool. That is not cool at all. If you're going to do it to the natural born folks that are here, then you need to be definitely be doing it to the people that are wanting to come here. That's just the way it is. Now, let's say for argument's sake, I would want to move to, say, Kenya. In Kenya, I haven't looked it up, but I'm just bear with my thought here. And Kenya does not have a they're not susceptible to say chickenpox. Okay, they don't have it. Because climate, geographical locate, whatever, they don't have it. But we have it here. Heck, I have it. I have scars on my body because I had it so bad when I was a child. Um, and I go over there, and I have that um, strain or what it's in me. I have uh, that, and I go over there, and I'm a carrier, and oh voila, what should they do when I arrive? They should detain me, quarantine me, check me out to make sure I'm not bringing anything in that could harm the natural regular citizens that are there. They can invite me with welcome arms, but there's still processes that you have got to do. And as of this morning, it's not being done, and I don't like that. Now maybe the staff is being overwhelmed. I know almost every industry is experiencing shortages of manpower. What's behind that? Why is it going on? I don't know. I mean, I have my own opinions about that, and we'll discuss that possibly on another day when I'm feeling a little crabby like I am today. But the other thing is about Mr. Amell. And what happened was yesterday on a Sunday, Mr. Amell posted on his personal Facebook page. You'll have to pardon me here. I'm checking the healing rate of a scar of a injury wound that I received from work here the other day. Just make sure it's healing right. Pardon me. But Mr. Amell put a post on Facebook, and where he is laughing at the people that are being that are on trial for the January 6th storming of the Capitol. His point, I feel like maybe I missed it, was that it was ironic that there's wanting to act like they're victims when they broke the law. I get it. I'm with him on that one. They did. Now, I want to condemn that action. Now, Mr. Trump worried me when he started, before everything was said and done, he started using phrases like, we have to overturn this election result. I didn't like that. Now, what he was supposedly saying was going on in different states and all that did appear and that there might be some merit for pause and for clarification. But when you start using language like that, you make me nervous. Now, and for the record, I did vote for Mr. Trump in 2016, and I voted for him again in 2020. The reasons why: I felt like he economically would help this country, and I know that in the 4 years that he was president, me personally, and several people that I know, I work with, family, friends, they did do better under Mr. Trump than what they did under Mr. Obama, and what Mr. Biden was proposing that he wanted to do. Um, we were like, okay, what that's going to do is stop all the things that Trump, economic things that Trump had done that seemed to make the average American life a little bit better. Now, that being said, uh, when he, Mr. Trump, used that phrase, I don't remember where it was at. He was talking with it was like a rally. I don't remember what state he was in when he made that comment. I didn't like that. It bothered me. Now, you have the nation is divided on the issue of 2020. One side says the mail-in ballots were completely legit. They are tamper-proof. There was no way that that election was mishandled, and the integrity of the 2020 election was the most secure it has ever been. Then you have the other side saying, well, what about all these people that have come forward claiming that they saw cheating and they were even told to participate and blah blah blah. Okay, now here's the way that I look at it with Mr. Amell. I mean, okay, let me break it down for you. For 4 years, the Democratic Party, and I'm not hating on the Democratic Party here. I'm not. I'm just giving facts. They were trying to stop the Trump administration's seeming juggernaut, and they were successful. Really, I mean, his own party, the Republican Party, handcuffed him. The Democrats handcuffed him. A lot of things went to courts, and a lot of judges ruled that what Mr. Trump was doing was not right. It was unconstitutional, whatever, and blah blah blah. But what I'm going to point out is for 4 years we heard about how Russia meddled in the election. That's why Trump accidentally got elected, and blah 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 blah. Same people say that the 2020 election was the most secure it had ever been. Now, here's what I want to say about that. If that is the case, then why wasn't it secure in 16, but it was in 20? What steps have been taken to make sure that it was secure? And I know that the Trump administration claimed that they had enacted certain policies, although from memory, I don't recall them ever being specific as to what. But I also know that states took it upon themselves to make sure that things were done right and so forth. Now, 4 years, we heard about election meddling out of Russia, and that's why President Trump was accidentally elected. Now, they impeached him. They challenged everything that he did. And then comes the 2020 election with a epidemic. And the American economy slowed down, and then it began to pick back up because certain states started lifting the quarantine and the intense restrictions placed on people, and things started to get better yet again. And then the election takes place, and it's challenged and disputed. And what I'm saying is, all that happened in I don't remember the exact number of weeks that we went through from election night to January 6th. I could look it up on my calendar here, but I don't want to do that right now because it's irrelevant. I find it interesting. A certain amount of Republicans were going to had openly said that they were going to challenge the results of the 2020 election, which is legal in the Congress. They were going to point out to the supposed facts and proof of certain states, certain areas of certain states, um, that would cause that there need to be further investigation done on the 2020 election to make sure that things actually went down the way that we were told that they went down. And again, I'm not throwing rocks at either party here, but it was in the Republican Party's interest to be put on the brakes and say, well, we really need to look at this. I mean, it was political. I'm not going to deny that at all. I'm not saying that that's not what they were after. They was wanting to get Trump back in. I'm not saying that's not what they were up to. Of course it was. But they, I'm playing devil's advocate for both sides here, okay? So then the day arrives for the official validation, solidification, whatever you want to call it, of the 2020 election to be done in the Congress. And before they get a chance to uh, do their thing, go through their process, the Capitol gets stormed by a group of idiots. And I don't apologize for calling them idiots. I find it convenient that that happened. And the certain Republicans that were supposed to challenge the um, results in certain states and stand with other senators that did, they folded after the attack and the break in of the Capitol buildings, and they didn't do what they said they were going to do. Now, what I'm trying to say here is I'm not saying it was staged, but it makes me wonder if it was, because certain people were going to be on the fence. And let's face it, by that point, we were all tired of hearing about the election. And that's just the way it is. One side saying, no, nothing happened, and the other side sitting and screaming and pulling their ears, foaming at the mouth saying, no, something did happen. But we were tired of hearing it week after week, day after day, hour after hour. We were tired of it. I get it. But it makes me wonder if one side or the other might not have had plans there to storm the Capitol to sway things into their favor. And one side, if that was the case, it backfired on them. But what we do know is it did happen. And what I am really ticked off about, and I have been since January 6th, is hello, where was the police? The federal government, the Capitol building, the White House, the nuclear silos of the country, they're supposed to be the most secure uh, and completely impossible to be stormed, and yet that happened on the Capitol on January 6th, and that irks me to no end. Now, of course, I know one side, the conspiracy theorists and all that, said, well, the cops helped them, or the cops just stood around and watched it happen, blah blah blah. I don't know. What I do know for sure was their presence wasn't there or wasn't strong enough to shut it down. Are you saying, well, are you saying, hey, should they have shot? Yeah, you shoot them. You don't have to kill them, but you can wound them and stop them. You let a couple of them get shot in the leg. Guess what? The rest of them are going to stop. Why? Because they didn't have weapons and they were worked up into a frenzy. But guess what? You or people of your group go down, and I have been shot. I can testify to what it feels like. It hurts like heck. And guess what? You're going to stop what you're doing. So, why were the Capitol Police, okay, don't shoot them with bullets, shoot them with rubber bullets, tear gas, whatever, I don't care, just stop them. And they didn't. They didn't successfully stop them until they had already broke into the Capitol, and our leaders were evacuated and hidden and whatnot. That is unacceptable. That is a very bad commentary on the state of the uh, law enforcement of D.C. or of the Capitol. I don't know if the Capitol has their own police out aside from the D.C. But I would think that would be that would be completely impossible. Now I know they had the protesters, and one side says it was the Trump folks that did it. The Trump folks say no, they weren't with us. We don't know where these people came from, but they weren't with us, and blah blah blah. I don't know. What I do know for sure is it happened. It took place. They did storm the Capitol, and they did break in, and our leaders were evacuated, and they did hide, and finally it was stopped, and these people were arrested. And I guess what I'm trying to say is before when a powder keg like that situation, like it has been, and it's still that way. You got half the nation that says, you know, one, is on one side, and the other half of the nation is on the other side, and nobody's talking to each other, and everybody's standing around acting like they hate one another, and it's and we had weeks of this contention and this built up, frustration, not to mention months of people being isolated and quarantined and whatnot because of COVID and all this, and you've got this big explosive situation there, and there was a very pathetic um, performance on the law enforcement. And I would think you would think of all of these factors on, especially when you got one side saying that hey, our boys are going to contest this, and you would be extra cautious just to make sure that nothing untoward happens. And yet it did happen, and it appears from the videos that I have seen that there was very little police presence. I know I've seen it. You've seen it. The one where it looks like the cop is supposedly waving the folks in as they storm. I don't know what was going on. I don't. That might not even. That might be Photoshop. I don't know. All I know is that the Capitol was stormed, and it makes me angry that the law enforcement wasn't there doing a better job. Okay, be non-lethal. I mentioned about shooting them. Okay, be non-lethal. Fine, tear gas, whatever. But if you have a strong enough police presence there, like they have supposedly been doing since then that wouldn't have happened. And it should have never happened to begin with, is what my point is. Now, back to Mr. O'Malley. He was saying that these people are acting like these people that did storm the Capitol are victims. And you break the law, you face the consequences. From what I watched of the video, that's what I took that his line of thought was. And then today he was saying about a lot of the comments, and there were people saying that he was going to lose uh, fans and support and whatnot because of that video that he had made. It was just a short video, very short video. I don't even know. I don't even think it was a full minute long. But the truth of the matter is, yes, there are going to be people that didn't. And I've read some of the comments today. They didn't like it. They were wanting a name call. They were wanting to be, whatever. And they were saying he was ugly, but they were being ugly, supposedly because they didn't like him being whatever. Here's the fact of the matter is, even if you are a diehard Trump fan, you should not be supporting that kind of behavior because that's anarchy. And we don't do that here in this country. If, let's say, let me play devil's advocate for you Trump folks out there, and I don't mean to anger you Biden supporters or people that lean that way, whatever, but I'm playing devil's advocate here. Let's say that Trump is right and he got cheated, okay? And those folks stormed the Capitol. That is still wrong. What do we do in this nation? Okay, somebody cheats and breaks the law and wins an election or steals an election. Sorry, I bumped my microphone here. I'm getting animated with my hands. But say that happens. What do? We wait for next election and we vote them out. That's what we do. That's the whole purpose of elections, is so that there isn't bloodshed, so that there isn't revolutions, there isn't civil war, that if Leaders are not performing, if they are not representing us, if they are not doing what they should be, then we vote them out and put people in. Now, where Americans have failed in the election uh, department is we have let people, like in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Mitch McConnell has been there over 30 years. That's ridiculous. He has been reelected that many times, and you're not going to tell me he's not corrupt. When you are up there for that long a time, and you've got all that money flying around, and all that influence flying around, and all this stuff going on up there, you're not going to tell me that you're not going to bend. Because from what I have read of people that used to serve up there and people that worked for people that do and did serve up there, it is its own little world in its own way, and you have to adapt. You have to evolve into the mess, or you're not going to survive. And where we have failed is reelecting these same people over and over and over. Now, have I voted for Mitch McConnell in the past? Yes, I have. Did I vote for him this last time around? No, I did not. Oh my God! Oh, why? Why did you? Because he's been up there too long. That's why. It's time for him to go. And it doesn't apply just to Mr. McConnell. And I'm not hating on him. I don't have any beef with him except he's been up there too long. And people say term limits. Now, if the fact of the matter, and I agree with term limits, don't misunderstand me at all. Our society is such a rat race, and people are so busy. Guess what? A lot of people are like, "Hey, we're going to vote for him this time around, and we'll get it. We'll deal with it later." And later never gets here. I know. I get it. Okay, I understand. We shouldn't have term limits because we, the voters, should be saying, "Okay, you know, you've been up there long enough. Let's get somebody else." But we haven't. Now, same thing could be said about the presidents, but uh, I don't remember the exact date, but it's after um, Mr. Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, was elected, I believe, 4 times during World War II, that era of time. And after that is when they passed the amendment that limits a president to 2 terms. And that's fine. I'm fine with that. And honestly, I think senators should hold 2 terms, and um, congressmen should hold 6. It's 12 years both ways. Okay, that's why. But and judges should have term limits. The Supreme Court stuff of when you're put on there, you're on there for life or until you die or you retire. That's baloney. Okay, that's my own personal opinion. Again, this is called Bluegrass Independent Opinion. It's my opinion, my comments, and that's baloney. That's just the way I feel about it. But that's the way things are, and legislation hasn't been passed to limit the amount of time that people serve. Now, you're like, well, now we got to keep my dad, rest his soul. We got to have our boys up there. Do you not hear what you're saying? You say that the Democrats keep putting their people back up there, and we can't have that. We need term limits to limit them from doing it. But when it comes to your own, I'm getting off topic. But again, it's a double standard. I don't like it. But Mr. Amell said what he did about people acting like they broke the law and they're victims. Yeah, it is silly, but I don't understand why people, obviously it's one side that support Trump, are wanting to defend these people. You don't do that, okay? It looks like you're being a spoiled brat, thrown a fit because your boy didn't win. That's what it looks like. Now, it might not be that way, and you might actually believe that, oh, if we don't storm the Capitol and we don't break in, then we have, then we're going to lose our democracy. That's not how that works, okay? Yes, we do have the Second Amendment in the United States. But the violence should be the absolute last resort. And I haven't seen anything yet that requires the use of force. The military has not been attacking uh, United States citizens. They have not been breaking the Constitution of uh, putting people in folks' house and all that, in which I would really wish people would get uh, well acquainted with the United States Constitution. Um, it would help everyone in this nation if you knew what it was. And then from what I understand, I don't know if this is true or not, I haven't looked into it, that mainstream public education does not teach that anymore. I don't know if that's true or not. Again, I'm hearing it from one side, but true or it doesn't matter. You need to keep yourself familiar with it. That way you know what they're doing or what they're not doing. And when they're, how can you say they're not performing what they're supposed to perform when you don't even know what they're supposed to be doing? It's like my boss, writing me up, but he don't even know what I do. I hope I'm making sense there. And yes, the metaphor does apply. Those people that are elected work for us, the common citizen. We don't pay taxes, and they get to tell us what to do. No, 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 no. That's not how it was set up. That's how it comes across most of the time, and that's how it feels a lot of times. You elect them, they go up there, they boss you around. Oh, I got to do what they tell me to do because no, that's why there are elections. Otherwise, it'd be monarchies on every level, and there isn't any. That's what it's a part of the checks and balances. So, um, I've heard people say, well, if you don't, these folks were patriots. They weren't patriots. They were criminals. They broke the law. They were idiots. You can stand out there and peaceful protest. Did we not learn anything from the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Did we not hear what the man said and the practices he put into place and the things that he encouraged people to do? Peaceful protest. Yeah, you can protest all you want, but you don't get violent and you don't destroy stuff. Otherwise, you're no different than any of these other chaotic third world countries that we hear about and read about in the news, where it's just nothing but chaos and violence that runs rampant and nobody knows what's going on. And oh my word, what regime is going to take power now? And how many of us are going to have to die? No, we don't do practice that here. But this kind of stuff can lead to that. And we don't want that here. Now, there may come a time when things get so bad, and I hope to God it never comes, that the citizens of the United States feel that they have to take violent measures to stop a tyrannical, destructive government from taking control or taking over or asserting itself on the people. I hope that day never comes. Again, it's part of what elections are about. You're supposed to know who these people are. But to do what these people did on January 6th is not right in any way. You can stand there, you can, with your signs, you can peaceful protest, and I know when you get a crowd together that you can get certain inflammatory folks that even say the things that you agree with, but they'll get people worked up into frenzy. It is up to the people that are heading up and administrating or that are leading this peaceful protest or this rally or whatever to identify those folks and get them removed. And if they will not leave, then you go to the authorities and be like, look, we've got this going on over here. We're peaceful protesting. But we got somebody over here trying to incite a riot. We got somebody over here that's trying to work everybody up to a frenzy. We've asked them to leave and they won't leave. Is there anything you can do? I guess I know a bit long here. I went way over the time constraints that I have tried to put myself on, but I have felt the need to say these things because this is vitally important. These folks are going through the judicial side of our government. They are being, dealing with the trials and whatnot of and said punishments of their actions, and rightfully so. You don't act like that here. Okay, that's just the way it is. Because if one side does it, it's only fair for the other side to do it. And, you feeling me? If one side can be violent, then the other side can be equally violent. And when you got that going on, you have mass chaos and violence in the country, and you can't have a well working government in those kind of situations. And that kind of stuff has happened in the past, and usually tyrannical. Back in when I was a child, it was the communist that would sow seeds of discord and get one uh, particular group whipped into a frenzy, no matter what their narrative was, and that would resort to violence, and then the other side would retaliate with violence, and when we got chaos and blah blah blah, and oh my God, what's going on, and all this stuff, and then they would take control, and then really bad things would happen. You didn't get to climb the food chain anymore. The socialism seems to be a popular idea, or so we're told, amongst millennials and on down. And socialism usually leads to communism, and the idea that everybody's on the same level and the levels up here, that's a nice idea, but guess what? It don't work that way. That's just the way it is. Because the people that are in control are always going to make sure they're up here, and everybody else is going to be down here. And instead of having hundreds or thousands of millions and billionaires, uh, and we all want to get up to that level and blah blah blah. No, it's going to be the state that's going to be up at that level, and everybody else is going to be on the low peasant level together. That's how that works. That's how communism has worked for years. It's the history. I mean, you can look it up. Uh, Unless that's been cleansed from things as well, which that's a whole nother topic for another day. But my point is, that's the way it goes. That's how it happens. And this attack on the Capitol, which I agree with the Democrats that it should never happen, it should never happen again. But anybody that supports that, we are not playing devil's advocate. Let's say you're right. You're the side of Trump, and Biden's actually wrecking the United States, and we got to do something. Yeah, you know what you do? You go to the ballot box. That's what you do. You write your congressmen and your senators, and you be tactful about it. You don't throw your weight around and use ugly phrases and name call and all that, because that's going to go straight in the garbage. I mean, seriously, somebody wrote me a letter and was attacking me personally. Guess what? I ain't going to pay no attention to that, much less if I have a staff. And if I have a staff that's working for me, and their job is to go through and find things, or letters, or whatever, emails that might be of interest to me, and somebody's using a very colorful vocabulary and name calling and all that stuff, what's it going to look like? It looks like you're a spoiled brat, or you got an issue, you're just a grouch, and nobody wants to. No, it's going to go in the trash. I'm not ever going to see it. That's the way it is. You say, hey, I don't agree with what you're doing, and this is why. What gives, man? Come on. Or as President Biden said back in the 2020 debates, come on, man. I love that. Still, um, yeah. What's going on? It don't hurt. That's what you do. That is what the process is. Not throwing fits, not rioting, not storming the Capitol, not threatening any of that stuff. No, you don't do that. And the people I know that support Trump and all that, they don't support that behavior either. Okay, for the record. Now I know that my area of influence, or my association, is a small area. Okay, but I want to say this, and I have the need to say that this is not what we do, and I don't agree with it. And when I heard about it happening, I was like, oh, I remember I was at work and I put my head in my hands and I was like, oh, because this is not what we do. Okay? Whoever was behind it, one-sided, I don't care, you don't act that way. And then when you do, don't get upset that the consequences may seem to be a bit extreme. No, you should rot in the jail for the rest of your life for acting like that. Because there was, I mean, the military wasn't killing people. They weren't rounding up folks and putting them in gas chambers. They weren't doing uh, threatening violence to anybody. No, it's just a certification of the 2020 elections, and you thought that wasn't going to go the way you wanted it to, or suppose we've been told, um, and so you stormed the Capitol. No, you're an idiot, and I don't back up. I usually try not to be colorful with that, but I'm sorry, that's just the way you were an idiot. If you storm the Capitol, you're an idiot because you're not going to accomplish anything, and you're definitely not getting the support of regular, normal Americans out here that are seeing all this. I'm an independent, and independents, he ain't going to condone that behavior. It's just the way it is. Even if your cause is just or whatever, you don't do that. It's just the way it is. Anyway, I went on long enough, way too long, um, but I just wanted to get all that out there. My opinions again, and as I've said before, I want to stress: you matter. Your opinion matters. Let your voice be heard. Have a great one.